If you're turning over somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, you're at a critical stage within your business. And this is the stage where a lot of us feel the pressure mounting. Constantly thinking about payroll, cash flow, wondering when that next invoice is going to hit your bank account so you can pay your suppliers, order the next lot of materials, or pay wages. And it's just this cycle that feels like you're constantly on, and it's extremely stressful. So today I want to show you the different stages in business and help you identify where you're at in your business right now. If you can identify where you're at right now in your business, you got a bloody good chance at trying to sort out some of the issues that you face and plug some of those leaks that are causing you to be stressed, causing you to be running around like a blue ass fly all the time. So we often feel like we're just so busy in our trades business, but absolutely out of control. You find yourself putting out fires all day, find yourself on the phone, guys are ringing you every 2 seconds. It just becomes highly stressful. Throw in on top of that wages, insurances, taxes, everything else that goes with it, dealing with clients' demands, mistakes that happen on site. Working in a trades business is a tough gig. Dealing with so many different people, clients' expectations, working with our staff, everyone has different personalities. The list goes on and on and on, and you can find yourself stressed out, overworked, and potentially underpaid. And because you're struggling with cash, constantly looking at your bank account, you're worried about when that next invoice is going to hit. You're looking at your bank account every single day and wondering, I hope that guy pays today because tomorrow I've got wages due. You think to yourself, it's easier if I just scale the business. And too often I see people scale their businesses. But what happens when you scale the business is you just multiply and magnify the problems that already exist. More work, more revenue, more clients, bigger jobs, put on more staff. We'll just grow. But it does not remove the pressure. All it does is amplifies what's already there. If you're good at what you do, you show up on time, you do a good job, you communicate well with your clients, you're going to get more work. So scaling is really not the issue here. When you scale and you scale a business that's set up correctly, scaling becomes easier. And this is the stage that I talk about, and it's somewhere between the $500 to $1 million mark. If you can get structure in place there, scaling beyond $1 million down the track, 1.2, 1.5, $2 million, it becomes so much easier because you're building on such a solid foundation. So this is typically how I see a trades business when it starts. You're working for somebody. A friend calls you and says, hey, I've got to build a deck out the back. Could you help us? Got to build a pergola. Need a couple of GPOs put in. Wondering if you come over on a Saturday and install a new hot water service for us because you're a plumber. So you go and do it. And then you find, geez, that wasn't too bad. This whole business thing's okay. I just made myself $500 for 4 hours work on a Saturday morning. Or you do the pergola in the deck and you go, geez, that was okay. I just worked weekends for the last 3 and I made myself, $3,000 or $4,000. And you think, I'm just going to go out and start my own business. But the reason why you're making money is because it's just you. Your overheads are really, really low. You don't have many expenses. You're on the tools, you're quoting the jobs, you're chasing up invoices, you're doing everything. So your overheads are really, really minimal. Your business just runs. And at this level, it's profitable. You're making money. But you think to yourself, you know what? I'm just going to scale this a little bit. And this is where the issues start to arise. You move to stage 2 within your business. You employ people. You put on an apprentice now. You got a qualified tradesman working for you. But as your revenue climbs, so do your overheads. You've now got wages, superannuation, insurances, fuel, vehicles, extra tools, accountant fees. And whilst you're busier and your revenue's up, you start to say, where's all the money going? Your revenue has gone up, but not in proportion to your overhead costs. So you think, we'll just take on more work. We'll just grow a little bit more. We'll just get bigger, more employees. Start putting the word out there. And you go from one job to the next. It goes from a bathroom renovation to a kitchen renovation. Then it goes from a bathroom to an ensuite to a kitchen, and then a small extension out the back. Or you're a plumber and you just go from doing just rough-ins to drainage to do roofing. You do everything and you're running around everywhere like a blue-ass fly. Revenue's climbing, expenses are climbing, overheads are climbing. And you sit back and you go, I would have been so much better if I had stayed at that level and just had me and maybe an apprentice. I would have made so much more money. Your business was so simple back then, up to the 200K mark. You've grown to the $500,000 mark, but your expenses have gone up. Your overheads have dramatically increased. Overheads and revenue are not in proportion to each other. All you've done is you've scaled activity, you haven't scaled structure. And then you hit the next stage in your business, the critical stage, 500,000 to $1 million. If you do a decent job, you're going to get there. And this right here is the most critical stage. Stage 3 within your business. 500K to $1 million. This is where I see with most tradesmen starting to come unstuck, with expenses climbing, debts climbing, and it just becomes an absolute shit show and a highly stressful business. Because you've grown revenue, your overheads are increased, got no time to work on the things in the business that are actually going to drive revenue. You have no time to work with your team to instill structure. You don't have systems and processes within your business to just smooth out some of those things. You're growing rapidly, so you're higher again. Overheads are increasing, but all you're doing is scaling chaos because the foundations are not set. 30, 60-day clients, wages due every week, super due, GST, BASs, supplier invoices. You've moved from being a sole trader to a proprietary limited company. Your accountant fees are through the roof now. You've got admin staff because you can't do it all. And the whole thing just feels like a shit show. And the cash just gets really tight. You dip into your tax money. You think, when the next invoice hits, I'll just clear it. What happens is the next invoice hits, but so do supplier invoices, so do wages, so does superannuation, so does everything else. Overheads hit, everything hits. And what happens? You don't have the money to pay your taxes to the ATO, and you end up scaling debt to the ATO. Absolutely stretched at this stage. But the trouble is, as you grow your business, everything multiplies. Your revenue grows, payroll increases, overheads increase, mistakes increase. And if you had incorrect margins at 600 grand, they're so much worse at $1 million, simply because you're playing with much larger numbers. Dipping in the tax money at 700 grand in revenue, that debt builds really fast when you start hitting $1 million revenue, 1.2, 1.5, that debt builds extremely fast. You can't scale out of structural problems. You need to put systems and processes in place so that you can build out of structural problems. Thinking that you're just going to scale and everything's going to just magically improve, waiting on invoices to hit so you can clear your tax money, it never happens. You end up racking up more and more debts. It may not even be ATO, it might be supplier invoices, might be wage bills that you can't pay, superannuation. You're busy, but you haven't built structure within your business. You simply can't scale your way out of structural problems. You must build your way strategically out of them. And that means forecasting cash flow months in advance. It means you know when the money's coming in and the money's going out. You make informed decisions based on data that's in front of you, instead of constantly looking at your bank account on your phone and saying, if that dude pays today 50 grand, I'll be able to clear that invoice and that invoice. The trouble is you do that and you're not factoring in the next round of invoices that are coming in. And the next day you get hit with another $20,000 supplier invoice, another, $25,000 in wages due this week. And it's this constant roller coaster, up, down, cash flow. It's stressful. We need to level that out by putting structure within your business around cash flow. You need to build margin intentionally. You need to know that every single job needs to track this margin. You need weekly job tracking. Every single job, you've got budgeted amounts versus actual amounts. $10,000 worth of materials on the job. Did you spend 10 grand? Did you spend 12 grand? Did you spend 8? You got to analyze those numbers. You've got labor allowances. Are you guys taking longer than you expected? Are they stuffing around? Do they need more training? You need to track those numbers. We need to protect our profits at all times. You need to install leadership within your business so that you're growing the up and coming leaders below you, so that you free up your time. You need to have a great team that you can rely on. And with that equals more profits and more time. And without that, debts just pile up. Debts build fast. Hitting $1 million in revenue, everything builds so much faster. You rack up $100, $200, $300,000 in tax debts. And if you have a good year and you net $100,000 in net profit, that means that after everything's been paid, wages are paid, suppliers are paid, there's $100,000 left at the end of the year. You're going to send $25,000 straight to the ATO, 25% company tax. You're only left with $75,000. You're going to send that $75,000 straight to the ATO. If you've got a $300,000 debt, it's going to take you 4 years to clear that debt. And this is what I see often, is guys run their businesses, they just think it'll be all right, we'll just scale, we'll just get bigger, we'll just take on more work, we'll do this. The trouble is everything multiplies. A year or two of bad structure, you're racking up $300,000 in ATO debts, and trust me, I've seen it. I remember driving home so stressed out. I'd have to pull over at the side of the road on the drive home because I knew the moment I drove up the driveway, my kids were going to come running to me. And I wanted to be present with them. So I'd pull up on the side of the road and I'd just be like, what a shit day I've had today. Stressed about payroll, stressed about debts, stressed about wages, wondering when that invoice is going to hit so I can pay suppliers. And I'd pull up the driveway and they'd come running and I'd walk inside and I just wasn't present. And I remember one time I'm there with my kids. They looked at me and they're like, Dad. And I almost blacked out. I was in another freaking planet because I was stressed out about money, stressed out about wages, stressed out about all that stuff. And it was at that moment that I made a decision that I needed to change the way that I was doing business. Financial stress will follow you home. It does not stay in the business. You take it home with you. It'll bleed into your marriage. It'll bleed into your relationships with your kids. It'll bleed into your presence. That's why I talk about foundations in your business being a critical part. And between $500 to $1 million is where I see most of the issues in most trades businesses. Prior to that, you've got to work hard. You've got to get yourself established. But you're running on the smell of an oily rag. Your overheads are really small, but at $1 million, you can't do everything. You may well be pricing your jobs based on a $200,000 business. You haven't updated your pricing to reflect where you are now that you have significantly more overheads. Fast forward to now though, so much more present with my kids. We go away, we take our caravan, we create memories together. But for a long time, that was me, so stressed out, couldn't even connect with my kids. And I felt so guilty. I was carrying so much debt, so much stress, I couldn't even talk to my wife at the time. It was really, really stressful. And I know how it feels to carry financial pressure. And it weighs you down, it stunts your growth, and you start to say, I'm no good for this business, I can't do this shit anymore. You take that pressure home with you. So even if you're in that spot right now, even if your business is running down the tubes and you know that you're stressed out, maybe you've got ATO debts, maybe you've got supplier invoices that are way outstanding, you've got ATO chasing you, you've got suppliers sending you demand letters, it can all be changed. But if you keep doing what you're doing, thinking that you're going to just scale your way out of it, you're just scaling the problems. It's important that you get back to the fundamentals of business and you build structure and build out of the chaos. Foundations matter. You need to build a clean $1 million revenue business. Stabilize your business first. Build the correct margin within your business. Build control, build leadership, build structure that supports growth down the track. Should you choose to grow beyond $1 million, if you're good at what you do and you run a well-oiled trades business, you're going to want to scale, but the market is going to scale you whether you like it or not. Because people want reliable trades. I hated my business for a long, long time. Super stressful. Couldn't stand it. I had anxiety bad every single day. Didn't even want to go to work in the end. Going to work is not a chore anymore. I enjoy it and we've scaled our business. So I speak to you from an angle of I've been there, I've felt it, I know how it is to carry the financial pressure. I know how I got out of it, and the answer is fundamentals within your business. We need to scale from strength and definitely not scale from stress. So are you structured with the work you currently have? You don't need more work. You need to build solid structure right now at your revenue level. The question isn't, how do I get more work? How do I grow my business? How do I take on bigger jobs? That's not it. If you can manage what you already have, scaling becomes easier because you're simply scaling structure and not stress. So if you're sitting somewhere between $500 to $1 million in revenue, you're busy, but you know you're just a little bit out of control. Send me a message on Instagram with the word growth. We'll look at where you're at. We'll look at what's going on underneath the revenue within your business, and we'll see if it makes sense to work together. But it takes commitment. And if you're serious about building a controlled, highly profitable trades business, one that pays you well and gives you plenty of time to enjoy life and enjoy time with your kids, we'll have the conversation. Let's build your business properly.